I wasn't supposed to be home that night. The trip to Phoenix was scheduled through Friday, but the final meeting wrapped earlier than planned. I could have stayed, maybe gotten drinks with the team or squeezed in a round of golf like the others did. But something in my gut, that weird, nagging sixth sense that doesn't come with alarms or flashing signs, told me to skip the rest. Just go home. So I did. No call, no text. I figured Kim would be happy. I pictured her lighting up when she opened the door, surprised to see me a day early. Maybe we'd order takeout, throw on one of those bad reality shows she pretended not to love, and just crash together like we used to. That was the version I was holding on to. What I got instead was something else entirely. It was just past 9 when I pulled into the driveway. Her car was there, parked slightly crooked like she'd come home in a hurry. Porch light was off. No music, no lights inside. For a second, I thought maybe she'd gone to bed early. Something she rarely did, especially on a Thursday. But when I stepped inside, the air felt stale. Not neglected, just still, like the house had been holding its breath. I dropped my bag by the front door and called out, "Kim!" No answer. The kitchen light was on. That was the first thing I noticed. Then my eyes locked on the countertop. 2 wine glasses, both half full. One of them had a red lipstick mark along the rim. Bright red. Not Berg *NDY or muted rose or anything she'd typically wear. This was bold, loud, like the kind of red meant to be noticed. And Kim doesn't wear lipstick like that. At least not anymore. I stood there for a long moment, not touching anything. My mind tried to rationalize it. Maybe one of her friends stopped by. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was just a night in with a bottle of wine and some TV. But even as the thoughts tried to do their job, to protect me from the obvious, my heart already knew better. The living room was dim. Just the glow of the TV screen paused on some menu. She was asleep on the couch, curled up in her gray robe, the one she usually only wore after a shower or on lazy Sunday mornings. Her legs were tucked under her, bare. One arm flopped over the side like she'd fallen asleep fast. I moved closer, quietly, so I wouldn't wake her. I didn't even know why. Habit, maybe. Some part of me still wanted to believe this could be normal. There was a throw blanket draped over the side of the couch. I reached for it and leaned over to cover her, and that's when I saw it. A faint, discolored mark on her collarbone. Like a handprint, or maybe fingers. The skin wasn't bruised, just imprinted, the way it might look if someone held her there. Not aggressively, but mately. My stomach turned. Her eyes fluttered open as I straightened up. She looked at me, blinking slowly like she couldn't tell if this was real. "Josh," she said, voice groggy. I nodded. "Yeah, got back early." She sat up too quickly. Not because she was excited to see me, but because she seemed startled. The robe slipped slightly before she adjusted it, tying it tighter like she just realized she wasn't alone. "You should have told me," she said, voice already defensive. "I wasn't expecting you." "I know. I wanted to surprise you." Her face was unreadable. No smile. No warmth. Just tired eyes and a tense jaw. "I had a girls' night," she said quickly, brushing her damp hair behind her ears. "Sophie came over. And Tasha for a bit. We had wine, watched that dumb show you hate. Nothing exciting." She wasn't looking at me. Her eyes stayed on the TV, or the wine glasses in the kitchen or the floor, anywhere but me. "Okay," I said quietly, even though nothing about it was okay. "I mean, you just showing up unannounced like this. It's weird," she added. "It's like you're trying to catch me doing something." That hit me sideways. "I wasn't trying to catch you," I said, slow and calm. "I just missed you, that's all." She stood up, still adjusting the robe like she was suddenly self-conscious. "Well, it feels like snooping. You fell asleep on the couch," I replied, trying to keep my tone level. "I wasn't snooping. I just came in and..." "Yeah, and already you're judging. That wasn't what I was doing." But now she was flipping it, rewriting it before my eyes. Her words weren't loud, but they were sharp. Too sharp for someone whose husband just got home a day early. Too sharp for someone who had nothing to hide. I looked at her, Really looked, and something clicked in my brain. A disconnect. Like I was staring at a version of her I didn't recognize. The robe, the lipstick on the glass, the hand-shaped mark, the scripted response. It all moved too fast, too rehearsed. There used to be a softness between us. We'd bicker? Sure. But we asterisk p asterisk nice silence. Never twisted each other's words into traps. Now she was standing across from me like I was a cop asking for her alibi. And the worst part? She didn't seem scared of me. She seemed annoyed. The distance between us wasn't just emotional, it was visible. Like something had snapped without either of us hearing it. I watched her gather the wine glasses, mutter something about dishes, and walk into the kitchen like I was a guest she had forgotten was coming. I followed her there, not to interrogate, just to see if her story would hold under the light. Did Sophie leave already? I asked casually. She nodded without turning. Yeah, not long before you came. Funny, I said, leaning against the doorway. Her car wasn't in the driveway. Kim froze for half a second, a micro glitch, then turned the faucet on full blast like she needed the noise to cover the silence. She Ubered, she said over her shoulder. Didn't want to drive after drinking. I didn't push it, just stood there. Eventually, she glanced back and added, "Why are you acting like this? Like I'm on trial or something?" "I'm not. You are. You're doing that thing where you go quiet but stare like you're adding things up." Maybe because I was, but I didn't say that. Instead, I nodded slowly. Sorry. Long day. She didn't respond. I let a long breath out through my nose and stepped back. I'm gonna unpack. She didn't stop me, just kept scrubbing the same glass over and over, like if she scrubbed hard enough, she could erase the part of the night I had walked in on. Upstairs, the suitcase barely made it onto the bed before I sat down next to it. The silence in the room felt different now. Heavier. I looked around, our wedding photo still hung above the dresser. Her robe from the night before was draped neatly over the vanity chair. Everything looked the same, and yet none of it did. I tried to tell myself that I didn't know anything for sure, that I was tired, paranoid, but I wasn't just reacting to the lipstick or the wine glasses or even the handprint on her skin. I was reacting to her, to the way she looked through me instead of at me, to the way her tone shifted from surprise to guilt to irritation in under a minute, to the way my arrival felt more like an interruption than a homecoming. Something in her voice, in the way she defended herself before I said anything, didn't sound like Kim. It sounded like a stranger wearing her face. And for the first time in our marriage, I didn't feel welcome in my own home. The next morning, I sat in traffic and stared through the windshield like I wasn't really there. The wipers brushed away a light drizzle that didn't match the forecast. But then again, not much matched lately. Not Kim's stories, not her expressions, and definitely not the life I thought we were still living. My hands gripped the steering wheel harder than necessary. A part of me wished I hadn't come home early, that maybe I could still be living in that comfortable, quiet lie. But another part, the one that felt everything down to its bones, knew I needed to see what I saw, even if I couldn't yet say it out loud. Something broke last night. Or maybe something that had already been broken finally made a sound. I couldn't stop replaying the moment she opened her eyes and saw me standing over her. No smile, no surprise, just fatigue, and that mark on her collarbone. And the wine glass with lipstick so red it could have been paint. And that defensive tone, that came out fast, like it had been sitting at the edge of her throat, just waiting for the cue. And maybe I should have been asking questions months ago. I started listing things in my head that I'd pushed aside before. Things I'd once labeled as quirks or stress or just how she is. Like how she never shared her calendar anymore. We used to plan things together, dinners with her sister, weekend trips, even dentist appointments. Lately, it was always, I've got something after work, or I'm helping a friend. But the names were vague, the details even vaguer, or how her phone had become a vault. It used to sit on the counter when we cooked together, or face up on the nightstand. Now it was always face down, always on silent, and always within reach. Once, I picked it up to hand it to her and she grabbed it so fast it startled me. laughed it off, said it was work drama. But my gut remembered. Then there were the calls. Ones that ended the second I walked in the room. Her voice would shift mid-sentence. Her fingers would fumble with the screen like hanging up took more effort than it should. I used to tell myself I was being paranoid. That we were just going through a rough patch. That we were both working a lot, getting older, more tired, more distracted. But when you step back, little inconsistencies start to form a pattern. Like the time she said she was going to Newport with her college friends. She was gone 4 days. I asked to see photos just casually out of interest. She said she hadn't taken any. We were unplugging, she told me. You know, girls reset weekend. But Kim is the queen of photos. She once took 14 pictures of our brunch because the lighting kept shifting. No photos? None? Not even one group selfie. At the time, I'd nodded and let it go. Then there was her bank account. When we got married, we agreed on a shared account for bills and joint expenses, plus a little personal spending on the side. Just enough for gifts, surprises, or hobbies. But about a year ago, she said she needed a separate account for financial independence. It was the way she phrased it, like I was somehow limiting her, that made me hesitate. But I didn't argue. I wanted her to feel trusted, empowered. She said every couple she knew was doing it. But ever since she opened that account, our money talks became shorter, tighter. She didn't offer up what she was spending it on, and I didn't ask. I didn't want to be that guy. But now I wish I had. I remembered another night, maybe 6 months ago, when we had dinner with my parents. Kim was distant the whole time, didn't eat much, barely spoke. On the way home, I asked her if everything was okay. She said she had a headache. The next morning, she left for an early meeting and didn't come back until almost midnight. I asked what had kept her so late, and she just said, "Don't start, Josh. I don't need an interrogation." That shut me up. I let it slide. I made excuses for her in my own head. She's under pressure. She's tired. She's just going through something. But what if I'd been going through something, too? And what if she didn't even notice? It felt like the past year was suddenly under a spotlight, and everything I thought was innocent now looked suspicious. Our small arguments. Her irritation when I touched her in the kitchen. Her sudden coldness after weekends away. Her quick temper. The way she brushed me off like my affection was annoying. We'd had dry spells before, couples go through them. But this was different. I used to feel wanted, even when things were hard. I used to feel seen. Now I felt like a ghost in my own marriage. I pulled into the office parking lot but didn't get out right away. I just sat there, engine idling. The rain dotting the windshield like the world was whispering, "Pay attention." Something was wrong. Had been wrong. I just refused to see it. Kim used to text me random stuff during the day. Memes. Screensh *TS. "Look at this dumb dog," or "This reminded me of you." Now I was lucky if I got a "Don't forget milk" text twice a week. I scrolled through our thread. Something I hadn't done in a while. It was empty. The last real conversation we had was about taxes. Before that, a reminder about her cousin's baby shower. Before that, radio silence. I used to be her favorite person. I could feel it. Even when things weren't perfect, there was love. There was effort. There were questions like, "How was your day?" And "Do you want to go for a walk?" And "Want to watch something stupid and order pizza?" Now there was nothing. A void where int asterisk Macy used to be. The signs weren't loud. They weren't dramatic. They were slow leaks. Little quiet absences that built over time until the room was empty and I didn't even realize I was standing alone. The biggest lie people tell themselves is, if something was wrong, I'd know. That's what I believed. That's what she knew I'd believe. At lunch, I sat in the break room, stirring soup I had no intention of eating. My coworker Mike joked about something and I fake laughed, nodding at the right times. But inside, my brain was spinning. Was there someone else? The question had formed in my mind before, but it never stayed long. Felt cruel, paranoid, like I'd be betraying her by even asking it. But now I was asking. I was asking because the pieces no longer fit into the puzzle she'd been handing me. And the more I turned them, the clearer the picture became. Someone else. person with a name I didn't know yet, a voice I hadn't heard, a number saved under something fake in her phone, a hotel room, a bar, a story she thought I wouldn't question. It was all circumstantial, I knew that, but I also knew that my instincts had never felt this loud. And I'd been ignoring them because trusting her had been easier than confronting the idea that my wife was lying to my face. That the woman who used to fall asleep in my arms now flinched at my touch. That the woman who once told me, "We'll always talk it out, no matter what," had stopped talking altogether. I looked at the screen of my phone. Her contact was still saved as Kim Yellow Heart, a leftover from simpler days. I stared at the heart emoji like it belonged to someone else. I couldn't even remember the last time she used an emoji with me. I put the phone down and looked out the window. Rain still coming down. The clouds hung low, like the sky was pressing down just enough to remind me. Something is wrong. You already know it. Stop pretending you don't. When I got home that night, Kim was already in bed. She said she had a headache. Again. I stood at the foot of the bed, watching her pretend to be asleep. Her breathing wasn't right. Too steady. Too forced. I wanted to say something. To pull the truth out of her like a splinter. But I didn't. I walked into the guest room, shut the door behind me, and lay down fully dressed. And that's when I realized something terrifying. I didn't believe her anymore. A few nights passed. I didn't say anything. Not yet. I think I was afraid that once I did, everything would become real. Words make things permanent, and I wasn't ready for permanent. Not then. We moved around each other like strangers renting the same space. Mornings were mumbled hellos, evenings were exhausted silences, and in between was the part that felt the most dishonest. That quiet pretending, that shared, mutual lie that nothing was wrong. But everything was wrong. I was wrong for believing her, for delaying the obvious. And she was wrong for thinking I wouldn't eventually see it. It happened on a Sunday night. I'd just come back from grocery shopping, something I usually didn't do alone, but lately had become my job by default. Kim was in the shower, and her phone was nowhere in sight. She usually kept it glued to her, even when she moved from room to room. That night, it was missing from the usual spots. That's when I remembered the old laptop. We used to share it back when we were planning the wedding, setting up joint bills, streaming dumb movies in bed. But over the last year, she said it was too slow and started using her work computer full-time. I'd forgotten about it too, honestly. It lived in the bottom drawer of the console table. I wasn't even trying to find anything. At least, that's what I told myself as I powered it on. It opened with no password. The screen blinked to life. Default wallpaper. A few dusty folders. I clicked the browser out of habit. Not searching, just clicking, like muscle memory. And that's when I saw it. Another user profile. One I didn't recognize. It wasn't labeled with her name. Just the word, guest one. But it had bookmarks. Saved logins. A full browser history. I clicked. First, it was harmless. Makeup tutorials. Airline sites. Pinterest boards full of aesthetic kitchens. But then I saw the email tab. It wasn't her regular account. It was some alternate Gmail. An account I'd never seen before. The inbox wasn't full. In fact, most messages had been deleted, but a few were still there. A recent one caught my eye. Subject: Our Weekend Blackheart. From Nick R. Date: 2 weeks ago. My throat went dry. I clicked. I can't stop thinking about last weekend. The hotel was perfect. You were perfect. Still can't believe we pulled it off without anyone noticing. I saved that photo the waiter took. The one where you're laughing with your drink. You look so happy, like you're finally breathing again. I read it 3 times, then again, and again, like somehow repetition would change the meaning. I opened the attachments folder. There it was, a shared cloud album. Kim must have forgotten it was linked. Inside were a few random selfies, vacation sh*ts, some work stuff, and then those pictures. One photo, taken inside a trendy-looking bar I didn't recognize, showed her sitting across from a man I'd never seen before. He was older than me, beard trimmed, sharp jawline. His hand was resting on her knee under the table. She was leaning in, smiling. Her lipstick was red. That red. The same one from the wine glass. The timestamp? The exact weekend she said she was at a leadership retreat with HR. My fingers hovered over the trackpad. I opened another folder marked Documents. Inside was a PDF, hotel_Sonora_reservation. PDF. 2 guests. 1 room. 3 nights. The same weekend. The same lie. My heart didn't race. It didn't pound or stutter. It just stopped for a second, like it was trying to process something too heavy for blood to carry. I sat there, frozen. The air in the room felt too thick. My fingers were ice. I wanted to scream, but my mouth didn't work. It wasn't a hunch anymore. It wasn't bad timing or distant behavior or missed calls. This was it. A full architecture of deceit. A system. A double life. It had names, faces, locations, and photos, and dates. The worst part? It had care. Attention to detail. It wasn't sloppy. It was practiced. Hidden. Designed. I closed the laptop carefully and placed it back exactly where I'd found it. My hands moved without my brain. Almost like I was afraid she'd hear me. Like guilt could echo. I didn't go to bed that night. I sat on the living room couch, the same one she had slept on that first night, and stared at the blank TV screen until the sun started to rise. At 6:30, I made coffee and stared at the mug while it brewed. She came downstairs not long after, yawning, wrapped in the same robe, her hair in a loose knot, like she was still pretending we were normal. "You didn't come to bed," she said, rubbing her eyes. "Couldn't sleep." She paused. "Bad dreams?" "No," I said flatly. "Just restless." She nodded slowly, as if that answered everything, then walked to the fridge and poured oat milk into her coffee like it was any other Monday morning. I watched her from behind the rim of my mug. Her movements, her body language, her tone. All so calm, so practiced. She had no idea I knew. That scared me more than anything. That she could lie this effortlessly. That she could stand in front of me and pour coffee with the same hands that had been on someone else just days before. That she could still say, "See you tonight," and kiss me on the cheek before leaving for work. And that I'd let her. For a long time, I thought if I ever caught someone cheating, I'd lose it, scream, demand answers, burn the bridge and walk away. But I didn't. I just stood there, sipping lukewarm coffee, nodding like a man who didn't just watch his marriage catch fire in high definition. Later that day, I pulled out a notebook from my office drawer and started writing down everything. Not emotional stuff, just facts, dates, times, alibis. I printed the email, the hotel confirmation, the photo. I bought a cheap flash drive and backed up the files. Not because I was going to confront her right away, but because I needed control. Truth makes you feel insane if you're the only one who holds it. I wasn't ready to blow it all up. Not yet. Instead, I would watch. I would observe. I would let her feel safe while I slowly built the rest of the story. She wanted me in the dark? Fine. Let her think the lights were still off. Let her think I was still asleep at the wheel. But I was wide awake now. And I wasn't letting go until I saw the full picture. I didn't confront her. Not that night. Not the next day. Not even after watching her leave the house wearing a new coat I'd never seen before. Texting someone with that distracted, soft half-smile I used to think was only for me. I did nothing. And that was intentional. Confrontation, in a moment like this, is loud, messy, emotional. It makes you feel powerful for about 5 minutes. Then you're just left with a broken plate and someone crying in the hallway. I didn't want drama. I wanted clarity. So I started watching. Not the way you watch a TV show or a sunset. I mean the kind of watching that requires silence, patience, and restraint. The kind that feels like you're holding your breath underwater, waiting to surface. It began with a notebook. Spiral-bound, basic, unassuming. Inside columns. Timestamps. Notes. Patterns. Days she came home late. Names she mentioned offhandedly. Who she said she was texting. When she said she was running errands. When her phone was off. I didn't do anything illegal. No spyware. No tracking apps. Just careful, intentional observation. I knew what I was doing. If I was going to confront her, I needed more than emotion. I needed a timeline, a story, something undeniable. At first, it was hard to keep the mask on. There were moments when I wanted to blurt everything out. When she walked past me after a shower and I saw the faintest mark again on her collarbone, like déjà vu. Or when she kissed me goodbye with lips that tasted like someone else's cologne. But I didn't speak. I just nodded, smiled when I had to, played the role, and I watched her unravel. Not because she knew what I knew, but because I wasn't acting like me anymore. That's what started to get to her. I stopped asking about her day, stopped texting her at lunch, stopped reaching for her hand in the car, or brushing her shoulder when we passed in the hallway. It wasn't cold. It was calm, polite, like two co-workers who used to be close but now only talked when the printer jammed. She noticed it fast. One night, she asked if I was okay. I said yes. Another night, she asked if something was bothering me. I said no. Then she stopped asking altogether, and instead, she started shifting. She wore more makeup, subtle, but I noticed. Lipstick more often. Even foundation when she used to skip it for errands. Her phone became more of an obsession. She used to scroll aimlessly. Now she was checking things with intention. Swiping out of apps the moment I walked by. Deleting messages mid-text. Switching to airplane mode when she thought I wasn't looking. She started locking the bathroom door. She never used to do that. One night, she left her phone on the coffee table while getting a glass of water. And I heard the faint ping of a message come through. I didn't even move. Just glanced down. Nick R. Still thinking about Saturday. You looked unreal. She returned seconds later. Picked up the phone like it was a bomb. Glanced at the screen, eyes flickering toward me. I didn't react. She didn't say a word. Later, I wrote it down in the notebook. Saturday. Overnight bag. Left 3 p.m. Said she was at a book club night. Came back noon Sunday. Wore different earrings. No photos. No book. I started keeping receipts. Photos of the laptop screen. *TS of the emails. Copies of the hotel booking confirmation. I bought a burner flash drive and labeled it something boring like Tax Returns 2020. Kept it hidden in the lining of my old camera bag. She didn't know. She thought I was drifting. And in a way I was. But not from indifference. From calculation. I had learned that when someone lies that well, that comfortably, the worst thing you can do is show your cards first. If she wanted to keep me in the dark, I'd pretend I was exactly where she left me. Blind, trusting, predictable. Until I wasn't. The more I observed, the more confident I became. This wasn't a mistake. It wasn't one drunken night or a we just kissed kind of thing. This was a second life. A curated, timed, protected affair that had probably been going on for longer than I dared guess. I noticed how she always left the house after our fights. Ones she used to work through, now suddenly intolerable. She'd slam a door, grab her keys, and disappear for hours. Driving, she'd say. Getting air. But she always came back looking a little too polished, a little too reset. Like she'd run to someone for comfort. Someone who didn't challenge her, didn't ask questions, didn't know the version of her that rolled her eyes at my jokes or snapped at me over dishes. I also noticed how she started making comments about space. I just need to clear my head more lately. I feel like we're crowding each other. It's like we're roommates now, isn't it? Once, she even said, if we ever split up, I think I'd still want to live close. For the dog's sake. We don't have a dog. I nodded. Said nothing. Wrote that one down too. The more she tried to justify her distance, the more obvious it became that she was planning for something. I just wasn't sure if it was a slow exit or an eventual confrontation. Maybe one where she played the victim. Where I was the cold husband. The one who stopped being romantic. The one who didn't fight for her. So I gave her nothing to use. I stayed kind. Not overly sweet. Not performative. Just decent. I did my part. Took the trash out. Cleaned the bathroom. Paid the bills. Folded her laundry without being asked. She didn't thank me. But she noticed. I think it made her uncomfortable. People like Kim, or the version she had become, don't like being outmaneuvered. They expect mess. They expect yelling. They expect to be caught and forgiven or caught and screamed at, but either way, seen. What they don't expect is silence. Not absence. Not patience. And certainly not strategy. She began to flinch more when I entered a room unannounced. She started locking her phone with facial recognition, even though it used to be fingerprint-based. She began sleeping with it under her pillow. At night, I watched her roll away from me in bed, sometimes pretending to be asleep even when I turned the light off. I didn't touch her, didn't say goodnight, just lay there, memorizing the shape of the back she no longer let me hold. I wasn't being cruel. I was being thorough. One afternoon, while she was getting groceries, I checked her email again. This time, there was a flight confirmation. Nick R. 2 passengers, Denver. Leaving Friday. Returning Monday. She hadn't said anything about a trip. No mention of work. No HR retreat this time. Just a blank spot on her calendar I was never invited to fill. That night, she cooked dinner. Something she hadn't done in a while. Said it was just because. Kissed my cheek while serving it. Felt like you could use something home-cooked. She smiled. I smiled back. That's sweet. We sat in silence for most of the meal. When I did the dishes, she walked up behind me, wrapped her arms around my waist, something she hadn't done in months, and laid her head between my shoulder blades. I miss us sometimes, she whispered. My hands paused in the soapy water. Yeah, I said. Me too. And that was the moment I realized I didn't love her anymore. Not because of Nick. Not because of the cheating. But because the person I loved didn't exist anymore. She'd left long before I ever saw the lipstick. And what was left? A woman who could look me in the eye, lie through her teeth, and still kiss me goodnight like nothing was wrong. A woman who mistook my quiet for confusion. But I wasn't confused. I was waiting, not for her confession, not for some dramatic apology. I was waiting for the right moment, the one where the mask would fall, and she'd realize she never had control to begin with. Our wedding anniversary was on a Thursday. 12 years. A full dozen. It came and went like background noise. No dinner reservations, no flowers, no late-night toasts. She didn't mention it once. Not even in passing. Not a sticky note. Not a hey, remember? Nothing. The old Kim would have made a whole day of it. I used to have to talk her down from Pinterest-level planning. One year she made a scavenger hunt around the city, just for fun. Another, she surprised me with a weekend getaway to a cabin by the lake. That woman, who once obsessed over getting the right frosting color for our anniversary cupcakes, was gone. Now, she didn't even acknowledge the date. But I did. Not loudly. Not with a banner or a confrontation. Just one quiet post. A single photograph. It was one of our wedding pictures. Not the official portraits, but a candid one. We were standing just outside the church, confetti still in my hair. She was looking at me like I'd hung the stars. I remember that look, that exact moment. She wasn't posing. She didn't know the camera was on her. I found it in a forgotten folder on an old flash drive. It almost hurt to see it, but I posted it. The caption was simple. 12 years ago, I believed this was forever. No hashtags, no tags, no mention of her. Just a sentence and the picture. It went live around 8 a.m. By 10 o'clock, the messages started. Old friends. My cousin. One of her co-workers. Is everything okay between you two? That caption sounds heavy, man. Just saw your post. Hope you're all right. I didn't reply to most of them. That wasn't the point. This wasn't for attention. It was for truth. A truth that didn't require confrontation. Just light. All I did was hold up a mirror and let the reflection do the talking. By noon, I got a call. It was her. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail, her voice calm but clipped. Hey, can we talk? I saw your post. Don't know what that's about, but... yeah, call me. I didn't. At 4:30, I was already at the apartment. My apartment. The one I had quietly leased 2 weeks ago under my name only. It was furnished with the basics. Nothing cozy, nothing familiar. Just clean lines and silence. I'd moved most of my clothes, my important documents, and a few personal things. The rest could stay behind. Kim didn't know. She still thought I lived in that house. Thought I was coming home. She'd find out soon enough. I unplugged my phone. Set it on the kitchen counter. Sat on the floor of the living room with a cup of tea, staring out the window as the sun dropped behind the city. There was a calm that night I hadn't felt in months. Not happiness. Not peace. Just clarity. Back at the house, Kim was probably rereading that caption. Maybe scrolling through comments. Maybe wondering what she had missed. Maybe she'd finally looked at the calendar and realized what day it was. Maybe not. I didn't care. I had spent enough time being the one who noticed, who waited, who hoped. I was done playing the role of the silent forgiver. She would walk into an empty house. That was my goodbye. No argument. No door slam. Just absence. That night, I slept with the windows open, wrapped in a borrowed blanket. My new apartment still smelling like fresh paint and cardboard. And for the first time in over a year, I slept without waking up in a cold sweat. 3 days passed. Nothing from her. No texts. No calls. Then, on Sunday afternoon, she found me. I was at the apartment when there was a knock at the door. Not a buzz from the main entrance. She must have followed someone in. The knock was soft, almost guilty. I didn't move at first. Then another knock. Then her voice. "Josh, it's me." I opened the door. She was standing there holding the printed wedding photo. Not the one I posted, the original print. The one we had framed above our bed. It had been ripped out of the frame. She looked tired. Not just physically, but weathered. No makeup. Hair tied back like she hadn't had the energy to style it. Her eyes were red. Her lips trembled. She held up the photo like it was evidence. "I saw the post," she said, voice raw. She broke off. "Can I come in?" I didn't answer, just stepped aside. She walked in slowly, like she was entering a church. The silence was thick. She glanced around. At the bare walls, the folded towels on the counter, the empty coat hook by the door. "This is real," she whispered. I nodded. She sat down at the kitchen table and laid the photo in front of her. Then put her head in her hands and just sat like that, shaking. "I didn't think you'd," she started, but trailed off. "I know," I said. "You didn't think." She looked up. "That's not fair." I leaned against the counter. Neither was lying to me for months. She wiped her face. "I never meant to hurt you." "You did." Her voice cracked. "I swear I didn't plan it. It just happened." I waited. She kept going. At first it was just emails. Dumb, flirty stuff. I didn't even take it seriously. He made me laugh. I hadn't laughed like that in a long time. I stared at her. She looked away. "You stopped seeing me." "No," I said. "I stopped reaching for someone who kept turning away." That landed. She flinched like I'd hit her. "I was lost," she said, quieter now. "I didn't know how to ask for help without sounding like I was blaming you. And then it spiraled." "It didn't spiral," I said. "It took effort. Coordination. You hid things. You planned weekends. You used a fake email. You booked flights. That's not spiraling. That's choosing." She closed her eyes. I know. She didn't ask how I found out. I think she knew it didn't matter anymore. "I don't love him," she added, almost as an afterthought. "Not really. That's the part you think I care about?" She blinked. "What do you mean?" "I'm not jealous," I said. "I'm not sitting here wondering what he has that I don't. I'm not thinking about what he looks like or what you said to him." "Then what are you thinking?" I looked at her, long and hard. "I'm thinking about how easy it was for you to look me in the eye, night after night, and lie." She said nothing. "You came home from being with him and you still kissed me goodnight. You still let me cook for you. Still watch TV with me like we were okay. That's the part I'll never forget. Not because you cheated, but because I didn't matter enough to even pause." She opened her mouth, closed it again. "You were right about one thing," I said. "We are roommates now." but I'm done sharing space with a stranger. She looked like she was about to cry again. Can you ever forgive me? I thought about that. And then I said, I forgave you the night I left. She looked confused. I continued, because forgiveness is about me, not you. I forgave you so I could walk out of that house and never look back. But trust, love, that doesn't come with forgiveness. Those are already gone. She nodded slowly, hands folded on the table. So what now? She asked. I walked to the door, opened it and held it for her. Now you go. She didn't argue, just stood, picked up the photo and walked past me. As she stepped into the hallway, I said, You can keep it. She turned. What? The photo, I said. You can keep it. Frame it. Burn it. Doesn't matter. That version of us is not coming back. And then I closed the door. On her. On us. On everything. 3 days after she left, Kim found my address through a mutual friend. She showed up midday, no makeup, holding the wedding photo like it might fix something. She didn't yell or beg. Just said she never meant for it to go that far. That it meant nothing. I let her talk. I didn't interrupt. Her words bounced off the walls. I was done being the man who absorbed them. When she asked if there was still hope, I told her the truth. I left the night I realized my love became optional to you. No shouting. No dramatic exit. Just honesty. She cried, said I was being cold. Maybe I was. But I had given her every chance to choose me, and she didn't. What was left to save? She left the apartment in silence, the photo still in her hands. She didn't come back. A year passed. I didn't expose her, didn't post the emails, didn't burn her reputation. I simply moved on. Kim stayed in the house we once shared. I heard through friends she started seeing a therapist. Maybe she thought healing meant reaching for the past. I didn't. I let go. I found peace in the small things. Clean dishes, weekend hikes, laughter that didn't feel rehearsed. On my birthday, a dozen people showed up unprompted. No reminders, no guilt, just presence. That was the gift, to be chosen again. Not because someone had to, but because they wanted to. And that's when I knew leaving quietly had been the loudest thing I ever did.